Everyone, welcome to another webinar in the Solar Power Market Series. My name is Erez Dolev, and I'm the Managing Director here at RENVU. Today, we're going to be hearing from Kyle Pease, Sales Engineer at RENVU, who will demonstrate RENVU's online design and quote tool. This webinar is recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel and will be available also as a podcast. We will share links to those in the follow-up email. Before we dive in, and while we're waiting for more people to join, I'd like to give a little background on RENVU and some of the products and services we offer. So RENVU is a US-based solar equipment distributor established in 2012. All of our sales engineers have engineering background. We have fulfillment facilities in California, New Jersey, and Texas. We are investing significant capital into developing online tools to make it easy to get quotes when you need to quote project or just want to compare pricing you're getting from other sources. That's what Kyle will walk us through today. This year, we are planning to increase significantly our inventory across the country to avoid the supply chain constraints we experienced in the last 2 years. So have stable supply of commercial and residential modules, string inverters, optimizers, microinverters, batteries, racking, and other balance of system components. We are committed to keeping our commercial price list up to date with our current inventory and pricing. In the chat, we will be sharing a link to our live spreadsheet, which you can save and revisit as needed. This is a great resource when you're looking to purchase large quantities of modules or want to stay informed on the market pricing. We are currently running a special promotion that is available to all participants. If you use our online design and quote tool to create a quote between today and Monday, May 15th, you will be automatically be entered into a raffle for a chance to win one of two Ryobi brushless cordless tool combo. Each kit includes also two 1.5 amps batteries and a charger and a bag. Let me take a moment to introduce you to our Bleaky residential carport, a versatile solar structure that offers many benefits. The Bleaky carport is an excellent way to expand existing solar system or provide an alternative solution where solar cannot be installed on a roof. The two-car carport shown here is also offered in tandem solution with shared columns, allowing you to connect multiple carports when you need space for more than two cars. Designed to be assembled by a crew of two, the carport doesn't require any specialized or heavy tools, making it a DIY-friendly option. As a solar structure, it's eligible for the 30% ITC and comes with an iron reach system and under panel clamps that accept any solar module and inverter you want. Plus the Bleaky EPDM T-gasket ensures a watertight surface. This structure is made in the US, so it's also eligible for the additional 10% ITC, so a total of 40% ITC. For added convenience and safety, you can also add a decorative mesh to hide the solar components and electronics and safety solar lights that can be attached to the front columns without any drillings or wiring. Depending on your local AHJ requirements, all wiring can run through the carport columns without an external conduit. Additionally, the carport offers the option to install EV chargers, which pre-drilled holes in the back columns to install NLX juice box chargers and cables. Best of all, the Bleaky carport is designed and fabricated in the USA and comes with a 25 years warranty. The structure includes PE stamps from structural engineer and is capable of accommodating up to 24 solar modules arranged in 4 columns of 6 modules each. The carport is has a basic load capacity of 35 pounds per square foot with snow load. It can be upgraded to 65 pounds per square foot and 175 miles per hour wind load. Seismic design category E. The two-car carport measures 18 feet in width and depth, providing 9.5 feet of clearance. It features a 5 degrees tilt. On the Bleeker website, you can access a 3D model of both the tandem and standalone carports. We'll share a link with you so you can explore the various components and get a better understanding of the carport's design. Okay, I think we can start now. We have a significant number of participants that are already logged in. Before we begin, I want to remind you that this webinar is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel. We will share the link in the follow-up email. During the presentation and the QA session, please use the Q&A button to ask any questions you may have. Additionally, feel free to use the chat for any remarks you may have. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Kyle, who will be sharing his screen and walk us through the online design tool.
Thanks, Ayers. Yeah, I'll get my screen share going up here. All right, can everybody see that all right?
Yep, we can see this one.
Excellent. All right, so yeah, a little bit about myself before we get started. I've been with RENVU for 2 years. I'm a sales and design engineer. Some of you may have interacted with me with quote availability questions, technical questions. So I do quite a bit of customer-facing email responses, and I also help with our back-end designing the design tool here and updating our web content. So I'm pretty excited about that to show you guys a little bit more about how it works. Before we get right into the design tool, I was just going to point out on our webpage here, renvu.com, the top banner, we have products where you can get to all the different products through product categories. We have some technical articles, learn articles, FAQs about our website and general solar. The plan and design, at the bottom of that, you'll find the solar design quote tool there or here on our webpage down a little lower. There's also some design calculators, geometric, electrical type calculators to help you make some design decisions, information about the California solar mandate, and then permit plan services if you need a drafted permit plan set to submit to your AHJ. We have a drafting partner for that. We also have financing options for businesses through Credit Tree, and then also for homeowners there. You can find those links. And then, as Ayers mentioned, the commercial price list, and if you want to be a Blicker installer, we also have some other supply chain things that we offer there. And then our About Us, and then importantly, the sale page, weekly specials. You can click here to look at all of our current specials, and we send email reminders about that on a weekly basis. Before we get started with the design tool, I want to remind everybody to please log in while you're using the design tool. You won't have as much functionality without being logged in because the pricing won't show. And one of the nicest things about our design tool is to be able to compare different pricing options. So I'm going to do that now. This login link here. If you don't have an account, let me refresh it. If you don't have an account yet, it takes a couple minutes. Hit the create account button here, and if you are a installer wanting to get registered with us, you'll need some business information there. If you're a homeowner or DIYer, you can just check that box and get straight to adding in your details. We basically just mostly need that shipping address to be able to generate the shipping quotes for you when we're making those design tool quotes. So then your account page, once you're logged in, you'll be able to access ongoing or past purchases, quotes, wish list, billing and informations, your account settings, and if you have any shipping claims, you can handle those there. So it's really convenient. I'll also point out on the homepage, if you're accessing the design tool from the homepage, I don't want anybody to get lost. If you hit the off-grid, it's we're changing it all to go through a single pathway, so this should be updated in the next week or so. It all goes through this grid type pathway, so just click on grid type for now. Even if you're doing off grid, those options will come up later in the process. So we're just streamlining that. The first page on the solar design tool, the start page, you can, if you need a little refresher, hit this quick video tutorial I made earlier this summer about how to go through the design tool. And then your first options here that you'll see is if you want a full system or if you need a subset of a system, say you have your own solar panels. It's really handy to deselect that, and then on the next page you can hit edit panel properties and put in the specific panel you have. That's a common question, so I wanted to point that out right off the bat. Also, if you don't know how many panels you need and you're making some initial preliminary estimates on what you'd want, you can hit no, help me calculate. And then after you've selected a panel, it will help you design the system based on your electrical bill, your electrical cost, how much bill you're looking to offset. But I'll leave it on just a standard pathway for now. So you hit next on that first page, and the first product options you'll run into is the different solar panels. If you take a minute here, let's see, it should load pricing. It's been a little slow on me today. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to jump forward and back. Okay, so one of the things that you'll be able to see is that the dollar per watt cost will change here as you click through the options. It's already got a bill of materials below it, so you won't be able to see just the raw panel cost, but this will give you an idea of dollar per watt. I'm not sure, it's been a little, I'm going to try reloading just real quick because I'd like to show that functionality. So yeah, I'll give it a minute here. Yeah, you can see system size, the panel wattage size, and let's see, $1 per watt. Okay, perfect. It just loaded. Yeah, you have to be a little patient with it. When it first gets started here, it's got to kind of run through the cost pricing algorithm with our system, our databasing system. But that price per watt, a common question is, well, which panel is going to be the most cost effective for me? Answer is really, it depends, depending on the layout and which inverters and things you're going to be using and best paired with that. But to get an initial idea of where you might want to start, you can click through, say you want a black on black panel. Tailsun and Longi are go-tos right now. You can see Tailsun's at 64, Longi's at 63. So it's really a toss-up there because you're going to need generally more racking for that smaller panel. So 6 one, half dozen the other on those, but there is a big difference. Say when you get to the big panels, the Hyperion 540s are at a great price right now, 55 cents per watt, whereas Q cells are a bit more expensive. So yeah, just check your options there at the start to understand your dollar per watt. But this is also the base dollar per watt. If you're looking for large quantities, that number will go down. Depending on if you're needing multiple pallets or a container, that number could be different. So then once you've selected your panel, you'll go on to the racking page, and there are 4 sub option or initial options for racking under tilted roof. You'd either select comp shingles, Spanish tiles, flat tiles, or metal roof as the attachment options. If you do select metal roof, you'll get 4 other options for that sheeting type. I'll give a quick example of comp shingle for now. It's the most common. Let's say you wanted to have 2 rows with 10 panels each. This could be a 2x10 array on a south facing, or it could be 2 separate rows, east-west facing on either side of your house. But it'll show it as a single array like that there. If you wanted to have them as separate arrays, you can also put in 2 arrays there at 1 panel. And yeah, 10 panels per row, and you would get those 2 separate. So just a little trick for maybe dividing out your different subarrays to maybe get around some features on your roof there. There's also portrait and landscape orientation. I'm going to jump back to the previous example just to be a little simpler. 2 rows of 10. Watch out for when you're planning your layout. Sometimes landscape will fit maybe a little better, but the pricing is definitely different. You're going to need more racking, more roof attachments per panel. So with 2 landscape rows, just checking our subtotal here, $86.95. If we bump it over to portrait, for those same 20 panels, we're down to $7,115. So there's a significant difference with the racking costs there to watch out for. And then if you're going to use Spanish tiles, it'll throw in these 9-degree Spanish tile roof hooks. If you're kind of curious what these materials are, as you click through, for instance, the Flashfoot 2 for the comp shingle, you can click on the item page. It'll you can just left click on it. You don't have to worry about losing your spot there, and you'll get a separate tab. It'll show the pricing, the tiered pricing if you're looking for large quantities, and then you can get right to the install manuals to understand more about that part, how it works, some technical briefs and structural certifications the manufacturers publish on it. We also link right to the manufacturer's website where you can get the latest docs. So that's a really good way to learn as you go for DIYers out there. If you don't know what all these parts are, you can just click on each one, read a little bit about it, and you'll get educated on the system real quick that way. Okay, yeah, so we have Spanish tiles, flat tiles, just changes this tile hook option there. And if we go over to metal roof, you'll need to know your sheeting type, and there can be many subtypes under trapezoidal R panel, for instance. So it's good to get the exact spec and then go double check with S5, our metal roof attachment provider. And they have many different options, so you could get in touch with us if you need a custom specific clamp for your R panel type or your various different metal roof type. So I just want to point that out there. And then another option that comes up down here is, let's say you had a black panel and you wanted to make it look real sleek for an aesthetic architectural type project. Then put black clamps, black rail colors, and that'll keep everything in a uniform color. If you're in a place with low wind and snow loading, you can bump it up or down to R10 light duty rail as well as another option there. All right, so that is the tilted roof options. Jumping over to flat roof, we have 2 different options, ballasted systems and roof penetration. For a ballasted system, KB racking is our go-to provider. And with KB racking, one thing to make sure you're aware of before getting into it is with a ballasted system, you are going to need a structural PE stamp for the loads on your roof there. So just a heads up, when going that route, you will need to do a ballast analysis. And then for roof penetration, the Iron Ridge fixed tilt legs, they come in a variety of options, which we've kind of subdivided by degrees from, I think there's like 15, 20, 25 inch tilt lifts, and depending on the panel dimensions, that'll correspond to a different number of degrees within a margin there. So there's that flat roof option. And then as Erza mentioned, the Blicker carport is another option that'll populate if you select carport there. For right now, it's just a 2-car that will come up. In the future, we could have some options for tandem or single car that you can make some sub-selections there. But this gets you an idea of what a ballpark cost would be depending on the panels. Also, with larger panels, you're going to be limited on the number of panels for that carport. So for 24 panels, you'd want to look at like the Longi 340s or the Tailsun 400s. That would be I think they fit better into the available array space there. And then if you're looking to do ground mount, we have Iron Ridge ground mount as one option, and the other option is Power Field. Iron Ridge ground mount, if you aren't familiar with that, these go in secured to the ground with either concrete piers or ground screws. And to get more of an idea of that type of substructure, I recommend going over to the Iron Ridge design tool and playing with that. If we need to get more into the details of that, I can share a link to that design tool later on in this webinar. So then you can, when you're making your selections for the Iron Ridge ground mount, 3 or 4 panels are the 2 options we give here, and then you can select your number of columns. It will be maxed out at 100 feet per column, I believe, due to thermal effects along, thermal expansion along that cross pipe. So you just want to make sure that you're within 100 feet, and then if you need to go beyond that, add in multiples here with the array repetition option. All right, and you can also add your wind speed and snow load. We can share a link to how to check that also if you guys are curious on that. And also a lot of AHJs, especially with snow area, heavy snow areas, you'll have a special snow analysis requirement. So you would want to check directly with your AHJ before committing to a specific option there. So just a little disclaimer there. Oh, since I had 10 rows already pre-selected on the previous option, it came up with a lot there. Okay, so for power field, let's see, ground mount, and then power field. Yeah, okay. Since I had some pre-selections here when switching around it, sometimes you need to click on some options twice to get the script to run to update that bill of materials. So just a little pointer there if you ever run into any kind of strange outputs that might show up, just refresh the tool and it can generally clear out those pre-selections that might be thrown off. So for power field, I can click on this here. You'll be able to see the these are essentially a ballasted tub that sits on the ground. And if you're not looking to put in piers or ground screws and maybe want something that's a little more temporary or mobile, this power field option is a good cost-effective solution. So there, point out that option there. I'm going to leave the pre-select options just under, let's see, 2, before I get on to inverters, I think I want to, let's have tail sun 400s, 2 10-panel arrays in portrait. Okay, so that's a really common DC system size we see around 8 kilowatts. So it's just a nice comparing for me, showing these in the inverter stage here. So the common question is, well, do I want microinverters, optimizers, string inverters? What's best? And the answer is, well, it really depends on your specific application and what you're looking to get out of the system. Microinverters, you'll have AC transmitted between or along AC branches across the roof, whereas optimizers and string inverters, it will be all high voltage DC down from the array to that string inverter. So there are some differences in how the system will function with microinverters, some benefits, some limitations. One of the benefits with microinverters is that if you have partial shading, each panel is optimized essentially with local MPPT of that microinverter. One limitation with it in my mind is if you're looking to add on energy storage, it's a little bit more prescriptive in its requirements, a little less flexible for off-gridders. I believe also if you are looking to put in phase energy storage, especially in California, I believe you need a C10 certified electrician to install that. And double check with Enphase if you're looking forward to moving forward or looking to move forward on a system like that. I believe you might also need a registered installer to do the commissioning for that energy storage. But let's say you just want a standard grid tie system, you're kind of curious, are Enphase, are microinverters like a good option for the system? So first thing to look at would be the microinverter that you select. If you're a DIYer, I would highly suggest Enphase. We've had really good reviews from our customers using them. If you are an installer familiar with either AP Systems or Generac, and you are registered as an installer with them, I recommend these options for those installers. And one handy thing about our design tool here is it will show the DC to AC power rating. That's the panel power to the inverter maximum continuous power ratio. You're looking around 120, 125% as like an optimum for your average place. You might want a higher ratio if you're in more of a clouded, shady place. But for here, IQ8Ms with the VSUN or TailSun 400 watt, you get a 123% ratio. So that's a great pairing. And just looking at cost for this system, it's like just under 13 grand, 12.7 for the cost so far. But there's another option too if you do have partial shading. But let's say you're a DIYer that wants some energy storage and maybe you want some more grid agnostic functionality. I would like to point customers over to potentially looking at optimizers with either GrowWatt or Solarc or Solus, depending on what you're looking for a system. So we'll remember that 12.7 for a standard grid tie, no energy backup, and then we could put on a GrowWatt inverter. They're generally most cost effective. And then we'll have the Tigo TS4A0 optimizers. Those also provide a module level optimization. They are a rapid shutdown component required for rooftops. A similar function is also performed with the microinverters. They're both rapid shutdown or RSD devices, but they're both also optimizing the panel output like an MPPT on a per panel basis there. So you have actually a similar performance with these TS4A0s as you would the IQ8Ms on those panels. And our system costs, we'll notice it's actually down to 10,000 right there. So that's quite a bit of savings switching over from Enphase to GrowWatt for, let's say, just a standard grid tie situation where you didn't want energy storage. If you do want energy storage, Solarc is very popular. Now, the inverters themselves are costly. However, the energy storage, especially scalable energy storage options that come with that, are much more cost effective when you're looking at scaling into a large system and having off-grid, grid agnostic functionality. So I'll give an example with, let's say, the Solarc 12K. This will be a little overpowered for the invert or the panels you have on the system there, but I'll give you room to expand. Also, it's not a huge cost difference between the 8 and 12K. So it gives you some future options with it. And for energy storage, you could add on this HomeGrid 9.6. HomeGrid's been really popular for our energy storage. If you just wanted to start small for energy storage for partial backup, you can start with that 9.6, and then you can see here, these are a stacked module. You just add on a module, as many as you'd need down the line. It doesn't matter the age. HomeGrid has informed us that you can add on modules separately to create that stack down the line in the future as you can afford without any effects on the rest of the batteries. So yeah, and you can go all the way up to 38.4 kilowatt hours is what we would see for a large whole home backup situation. Sometimes there's even multiples of these stacks for large houses with lots of square footage and lots of energy consumption, maybe lots of days of grid agnostic planning ahead there. Like if, let's say you had a blizzard and you didn't have any power production and you're relying on those batteries, you'd want to consider worst case scenario, and that's where people have large batteries and multiples of batteries. And also for cost comparing, what's really handy, you could compare the different batteries. HomeGrid, 19.2 kilowatt hours, and then that one would bring the cost to $32,129. If you wanted to compare that with Fortress, make that selection there, that's 18.5 kilowatt hours. So it's pretty close in size, but a different brand. Price is down a bit lower on that. So you could make that kind of design decision there. One disclaimer with switching from HomeGrid to Fortress is that it's adding ESS cabinet with Fortress. It's a really, or with HomeGrid, excuse me. It's a really nice cabinet that goes right up over the top so that your inverter sits on top. Let's see, it doesn't have a picture of it here. I think I can show it. Let's see here. I'm getting lost in my bill of materials here. Anyways, if you don't want that cabinet, let's see if it'll. Oops. Okay, or maybe I'm. Let's see if I can find that cabinet. Okay, well, I'll jump over that one for now. It looks like I'm not seeing that in my bill of materials right now. Okay, so then the other options for string inverters we'll look at real quick here. If you're not doing a standard grid tie or a single phase system, and you want to go up to 3-phase, Selectria is our option for commercial inverters. They have 25, 36, and I think 50 kilowatt inverter options. And those options will populate depending on your array size that you have here. So we have that limited if it's a small array. And then depending on the system, if how it's mounted, you can add on that rapid shutdown solution there through the Stinger inverter. Yeah, I guess that's a good thing for me to point out, is that when you just go for standard grid tie string inverter with no energy backup, at the bottom here, you'll see the different rapid shutdown solutions if you need them. If you don't need them, say on a ground mount system, hit no, and those will be gone. All right, and on to our final page of the design and quote tool here, cables, connectors, and wire clips. You'll see those at the bottom here under balance of system. You can add or subtract those from your quote just by hitting that checkbox there along with the PV labels. And if you want to add on EV charger, you can hit that checkbox there and multiples if you need. Then once you hit finish, you'll get to this final page where you can see the bill of materials and review your selections. Once you hit generate a project and email me the quote, click these checkboxes here. These are disclaimers. We're just a distributor where we can give you a bill of materials. We're not going to be the ones to PE stamp that design. That can go through Illumini, which I can connect you guys with more information on if you guys have questions on those permit drafting and stamping services there. Once you hit submit, you'll get an email in your folder, and you'll also come to a confirmation page that'll give your proposal number. This proposal number is really handy. You can share this with our design team at info@renvu.com. If you have any questions about it, you can use that to reference. If you need any edits, you can generally edit the quotes online. This is a functionality we're working on. You can bump up and down the quantities or remove an item. It sometimes, depending on the item, has an error where our web team's working on that, but it does have that functionality, and it should be pretty stable in the short term once we've got all our updates there. And again, you'll find the quotes under my account and then the quote section. Once, I recommend, if you're wanting to move forward with any of these, just send in an email about your quote, and you'll get connected with one of the sales and design engineers here. We can go over your bill of materials, weigh in if we see anything that's like a red flag of something that looks a little weird, or if there's any logistics availability, lead time kind of notes that we need to make you aware of, we'll do that at that point as well. One other thing I do want to point out with the design tool, a limitation that's also a common question that we have a good workaround for is, let's say you have a system that consists of two different racking surfaces. Let's say you have one roof that's comp shingle, and then you actually have like an extended lower angle metal roof below that. You can generate two quotes with the design tool here. You can even just make let's say that second quote, you're going to use that same inverter, but you don't need an inverter for that second quote. You can deselect inverters there and then add on the metal roof. It'll get you the panels and the roof attachments you need for that second array. That's a handy way to do it. Also, if you are like a neighborhood cooperative, we've had this quite a few times where a number of neighbors are getting together and making an order. You guys can save on shipping. You can potentially get tiered pricing savings by combining the quotes together for a single shipment. Just again, send in those quote numbers that you want to move forward on, and we can merge them on the back end and get you a combined quote for those increased quantities and the shipping cost. You'd save generally pretty well on shipping panels, because the panels come on pallets. They have a stack of between 25 and 36 depending on the panel, and that's a really major cost saving option if you're looking for a merged group quote there. All right, so that is most of what I had on my mind for the design tool. I'm gonna look in the Q&A in the chat here. Eris, if you want to also maybe point out any questions you've seen or things you would want to add, we can jump on those now.
Before we're doing it, if you can let me share my screen real quick.
Yeah, I can stop share here.
Thanks. Kyle mentioned some battery storage options, and I wanted to mention that we actually have a campaign coming up with Q cells, which you will buy the Q cells inverter with 3 batteries, which comes up to 18.9 kilowatt hour of storage, and we are giving free 2 batteries. Each one is 6.3 kilowatt hour with that system for future replacements or upgrades. That will be at a really good price. So look for those email offering that we will release in the next week or two. Let's see. Let's take a look real quick at what we have in the Q&A. First question from Aristotle is your team able to assist with RFQs, equipment pricing requirements for 1 megawatt system? Do you want to take that, Kyle?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we can definitely assist in those larger systems, and I highly recommend looking at our commercial price list that we shared in the chat. That will have the different panel options, most of the different panel options we have on the table through the supply chain, but also you can email in and give us your specific requirements. We might have some other options that we don't have yet published as well. All right.
Another question here is about getting back and forth on the tool, asking if we can try different options without starting over the tool.
Yeah, certainly. Maybe like I showed with comparing the N-phase microinverters with a grid tie inverter and DC optimizers to kind of see what your different costs are there. I think that was a good example. Another common comparison folks would make is looking at different panels. So if you want to save that number and save the bill of materials, you can go through and finalize the quote, but you don't have to. You can go back steps or forward steps in the SKG, excuse me, the design quote tool. It's our internal acronym for that design tool. And yeah, you can see that subtotal after choosing those selections, write down that number, then go back through and make some different selections, and you can get an idea real quick of what's going to be best for your use case.
Sounds good. It's important to mention that sometimes items will be left off on the quote. So for your final order, we would recommend to start over with exactly what you want rather than jumping between solutions to make sure that it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Since there's a series of scripts that run to populate the quote, there can occasionally be some edge cases where you'll get weird quantities. And if you have any questions on that, just send your proposal number into our team and we can look it over and get back to you on maybe any corrections that need made. You can also just take a screenshot of that proposal if you need any changes and send that in and we can manually edit that as well.
Next question is, does it cost anything to complete several quotes for side-by-side comparison of complete systems?
Nope, they're absolutely free. You can definitely go through and make as many quotes as you like. Once the first cost you'd be looking at in considering different quotes would be going through the permitting process through our drafting partner Alumni. If you needed a full I guess reconfiguration, there could be some additional costs there if you had multiple plan sets.
Your question that you showed, can you customize or edit quotes after they have been generated?
Yeah, so we have that functionality on the website. It's a little finicky right now, but our web team is working on getting all the glitches cleared out with that. So yeah, you can go into your account, navigate down to quotes, select your proposal, and then edit proposal, and then under each of the line items, you can select to change the quantities or remove items that you don't want on there. If you have any trouble with that, just email in info@renvu.com, any of the changes you need, and we can help you out there too.
Next question from Gwen is, why was the IQM the suggested pairing of Enphase on your tool?
Yeah, so the IQ8M, I can't remember off the top of my head the was that the maximum continuous power output of the microinverter, but that number is a denominator in the DC to AC what's that called, inverter ratio. So the panel puts out 400 watts as a nameplate, that's STC rating. In practical standard conditions, you're actually going to get 20-25% less in the panel wattage output, and so that would correspond with a 125% wattage ratio, meaning that microinverter would be putting out the full amount that the panel is producing in real world conditions.
Okay, last question from Sion is, do you deliver all the material, and is that on the invoice of the material? So
yes,
probably
absolutely.
asking about shipping costs.
Yep. So there are some things to note. We have several warehouses. We have one in California, one in Texas, one in New Jersey. So depending on the item, generally, especially panels, we have those stored in different parts of the country, depending on where we got them in the supply chain. And if some of our partners also, HomeGrid's a great example. it costs money to move those batteries around from warehouse to warehouse. So we have an arrangement to keep the costs at an absolute minimum by shipping directly through their warehouse, a single time shipment direct to your location. That it's called a drop ship arrangement, and it's become more and more common to keep costs at a minimum in the industry. So you might get several shipments. Generally, you'd see an LTL shipment for standard residential systems. That less than truckload shipment would come with the rails, a pallet of panels, and any other racking or balance system that we have in stock in our warehouse. Potentially, depending on your inverter and energy storage, those might come separately, either through a LTL ground carrier or someone like UPS, depending on the package weight and size. And each shipment comes with tracking. Our logistics team sends out tracking as soon as we have that in our system when the trucks leave our warehouse, or if they're coming from a manufacturer's warehouse, we relay that onto you via email.
Chris is asking, saying that he purchased the solar 15K inverters from us and other equipment from other previously, and asking if we can help with a design or permitting package probably, and what is the cost of that.
Okay, yeah, I'm not quite sure of the exact nature of the question. For design, yeah, you'd want to go through Illumini, our design partner. We can share a link if we haven't already to that, the permitting process with them. If you're looking, maybe you're looking for racking and balance of system, you can also use the design tool by entering your panel properties. If you uncheck panels, and then on the panel, on the first page, if you uncheck panels, and then on the second page, you hit edit panel properties, then you can punch in your panel there, and it will configure the racking based on your custom panel.
Nice. Okay, we went through all the Q&A here.
I see a few more in the chats.
I noticed them, and I think okay. I think we can skip those unless you want to tackle any of that.
Yeah, I don't mind. I see Dean's asking, can you design physically split systems like a house and a barn or other building? We certainly can do that. So generally the best way that I recommend doing that would be through a merged quote. You would have your, let's say you have an 8 kilowatt array on your house and a 4 kilowatt array on your barn, or vice versa. Generate a quote for each of those, and then send us the quote numbers. We can combine those quotes to get you some cost savings, and then you would essentially need to connect those two with a load center, combiner and load center at your main panel there. All right, let's see. Process for reviewing new products. Yeah, so as products come into the market, we continually update our design tool with the latest options that we can supply. There's tons of products that come onto the market, so we have to vet and understand which are going to be the most worthwhile products that we can stand behind and that are relevant to our customers. So that's part of my day-to-day is helping update that design tool with those. That's something I really enjoy. Any plans for a warehouse in Florida? That's actually been a repeated question. So we'll see. We definitely have that capability. If we see enough demand, we've been considering it, certainly. And then this particular webinar will be labeled. So I think we'll just call it the Solar Design and Quote Tool webinar as the subname. It's under the Solar Power Market Series from RENVU, and we'll send you a link to it after this webinar, anyone that's attending. I think that hits all the questions. Oh, sorry.
We might also replace the old recording with that, or generate a new one that will be fresh and show all the new options of the tool. Okay. If you guys have any additional questions or need further information, please don't hesitate to reach out to our sales team at info@renvu.com. If you have a specific sales engineer that you want to communicate with, such as Kyle, just mention their name and the ticket will be assigned to them. As a reminder, as Kyle said, this webinar is being recorded and we'll be sharing with you the link with a follow-up email. Thank you again for joining us today and have a great rest of your week. Look forward to connecting with you all.